Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to explore a genuinely fascinating idea that completely shifted how I view income and honestly, how I view financial stability as a whole. We've all been handed a very simple, almost unquestioned equation our entire lives. Making more money automatically equals being wealthy, right? It seems obvious. But what if that equation is actually missing a few absolutely crucial variables? Today, we're going to unpack the hidden math of wealth. We're focusing on some minimalist money rules that seem to completely separate the people who genuinely always have money from the people who never seem to have enough, regardless of how massive their paycheck is. And look, I want to be clear right up front. This is not about deprivation. We're not talking about eating rice and beans for the rest of your life. It's about fundamentally rethinking our financial habits and recognizing that income alone does not automatically grant you security.
To really grasp what we're talking about here, I want you to picture two different apartments. The first one belongs to a person earning $95,000 a year. You walk in and they are completely surrounded by an overflowing lifestyle. We're talking a massive top-of-the-line TV, brand new matching furniture sets, closets that are literally bursting at the seams. But when they sit down to check their bank account, there is this heavy knot in their stomach. Why? Because despite making nearly six figures, they are exactly two missed paychecks away from a total financial crisis. Now, go next door. This apartment belongs to a $52,000 earner. They live far more modestly, keeping just what they genuinely need. There's physical space. It's calm. Yet this person confidently invests 20% of their income every single month and has a full 18 months of living expenses sitting safely in a savings account. It turns out financial security isn't just about that top-line number on your W-2. It is an entirely hidden underlying relationship between your money and your stuff. That first person simply accumulated a lifestyle that eats every single dollar they make. The second person, though, they learned that deliberate, mindful living creates a financial margin that high earners often never experience.
So, here is how we're going to break this down today. We'll be walking through 5 core concepts: the hidden cost of stuff, rethinking value and ownership, escaping the upgrade trap, engineering better financial habits, and finally, we'll redefine the finish line with true wealth is optionality. Let's jump right into section 1, the hidden cost of stuff, and why everything costs you twice. When I first came across this specific concept in the source material, I'm not kidding, it completely reframed how I will look at shopping for the rest of my life. The quote is, "Everything you own costs money twice." The first cost is the really obvious one, right? It's the number printed on the receipt when you're standing at the register. But the thing is, most of us completely stop the math right there. What we entirely ignore is the second cost. And here's the kicker. That second cost is often significantly larger and way more draining over time. You have to start seeing the purchase price as merely the entry fee to ownership. What follows after you bring that item home is basically a permanent subscription fee that you pay for as long as that item remains in your life. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how it breaks down this concept into real, hard numbers. Let's take a super common example, a home treadmill. You pay for it once at the sporting goods store, right? Well, not exactly. That treadmill requires physical space inside your home. In most urban or suburban areas, residential space costs roughly $30 to $50 per square foot annually. When you actually account for the footprint of that machine, plus the necessary clearance space around it so you don't trip over it, a treadmill takes up about 20 square feet. Do the math on that for a second. You are paying an implicit rent of $600 to $1,000 every single year just to store a piece of exercise equipment. When you flip your mental accounting to actually recognize this implicit rent, you get this sudden, shocking realization that your possessions are literally charging you money to live in your house. But listen, the implicit rent of storage is really just the first hidden cost. Let's look at the broader picture here. First, there's maintenance. Think about something like a boat. Industry rules actually state that it costs roughly 10% of the boat's total value annually just to keep it sitting in your driveway. Then there is the mental energy cost, which I think is huge. Every single physical item you own occupies a tiny slice of your cognitive bandwidth. It has to be cleaned, it has to be organized, it has to be insured or worried about. Researchers have literally found that visual clutter directly increases cortisol levels in the brain. That means your stuff is biologically stressing you out. And finally, maybe the most devastating one, opportunity cost. Every single dollar you have locked up in a physical possession is a dollar that cannot be invested in your future. That $15,000 home gym setup you barely use, that could have easily grown to $50,000 in index funds over 15 years. Stuff quite literally steals your future financial freedom. Okay, moving right along to section 2, rethinking value and ownership. This is all about putting math over emotion. So, the absolute most powerful weapon you have against impulse buying is something called the cost per use calculation. Before you buy anything, try estimating how many times you will realistically use it, and then divide the total cost by that number. Look at how the math breaks down for these two jackets. Say you buy a trendy, flashy $200 jacket that you only end up wearing twice to specific special events. That has a cost per use of $100 per wear. That is incredibly expensive. Meanwhile, let's say you invest in a really high-quality $400 everyday jacket, and you wear it 200 times over a few years. That costs just $2 per wear. Doing this simple division instantly destroys the allure of impulse purchases. Think about a $2,000 mattress that you sleep on every single night for 10 years. That breaks down to about 55 cents a use. That is extraordinary value. This simple mathematical calculation is brilliant because it forces cold, hard logic right into the middle of what is usually a highly emotional shopping process.
Now, let's turn the lens away from the store and look at the things you already own. I actually want you to look around your room right now, or whatever space you're in, and apply this simple replacement test. Ask yourself, if this item disappeared today, would I actually go out and spend my hard-earned money to replace it? Seriously, be completely honest with yourself. If that dusty bread maker sitting in the back of your cabinet just vanished into thin air, would you drive to the store this weekend and buy a new one? How about those clothes hanging in the back of your closet that you haven't worn in 18 months? For the vast majority of the items in our homes, the honest answer is absolutely not. No way. These items exist in your life through pure inertia. Removing them creates a level of mental clarity and physical space that you will notice immediately. But that brings up the big question: how do we actually get rid of things sustainably? We have all done that massive, exhausting weekend purge where the house looks amazing for a week, and then almost magically, it fills right back up over the next 12 months, right? It never lasts. Minimalists handle this totally differently. They use what's called cyclical decluttering, which is built on a regular, low-effort maintenance. It's a three-step process. First, weekly glances at incoming items. Removing just 3 simple items a week takes almost zero effort, but over a year, that is over 150 items gone from your life. Second, a monthly evaluation of just one specific category, like tackling just your shoe closet, nothing else. And third, a quarterly assessment of your overall accumulation trends. Are things creeping back in? This cyclical approach is a game changer because it completely prevents the crushing psychological weight of overwhelming clutter. You're catching the bad habits early.
Let's move into section 3, escaping the upgrade trap. This is such a huge one today.
We really need to pause and rethink what the word functional actually means in our modern society. It is so incredibly easy to fall into the trap of upgrading things just because the shiny new version dropped. Like, your television works perfectly fine, but the new model has a slightly better contrast ratio, so you convince yourself you need it. But the data shows us that upgrading an item simply out of boredom is essentially wealth destruction disguised as progress. A phone isn't broken just because the newest model has a marginally better camera. Actually, scratch that. An item remains functional until there is an actual mechanical breakdown or a genuine inability to perform the tasks you need it to do. A sudden desire for novelty isn't product failure. It's just really good marketing convincing you to spend money to solve a problem you didn't even know you had.
So, the crucial point is, how much does this constant illusion of progress actually cost you? The number on the screen is staggering: $200,000. Over a lifetime, participating in modern upgrade culture easily exceeds $200,000. Think about it for a second. The average person replaces a perfectly functional smartphone every 2 to 3 years. Now apply that exact same impatience to your cars, your laptops, your living room furniture, your appliances. Replacing perfectly good items prematurely drains hundreds of thousands of dollars that could have been sitting in an account, earning compounding interest, and ultimately buying back your time. And it gets worse, because the cost of upgrading is almost never isolated to a single price tag. This happens because of something called the lifestyle multiplier effect. Basically, every major possession connects to an ecosystem. Let's go back to the boat example. Say you decide to buy a boat. Well, buying a boat forces you to buy a boat trailer, which means, oops, you might now need to upgrade your daily vehicle to a truck with a towing hitch. Then you have to pay for off-site marina storage, life jackets, safety gear, and engine maintenance. One major purchase triggers an entire cascade of related expenses. A $5,000 impulse purchase can instantly represent $12,000 in actual outgoing cash when this multiplier takes effect. Once you start calculating this entire ecosystem cost, it transforms seemingly reasonable, standalone purchases into obvious, glaring financial traps. Which perfectly leads us to Section 4, engineering better financial habits. Here is a fascinating secret about human nature that minimalists deeply understand. They absolutely do not trust their own willpower. Instead, they build systems. Willpower is a finite resource. It heavily depletes throughout the day as you get tired, and human behavior, well, it almost always follows the path of least resistance. So you have to build structural roadblocks to introduce friction into your spending process. You can do this today. Delete your stored credit card numbers from all your favorite online retailers so you have to physically get up to find your card. Enforce a strict 24-hour waiting period for any non-essential purchases. Delete the shopping apps completely off your phone. Unsubscribe from all those glossy promotional emails. By intentionally making the act of spending annoying and tedious, we protect ourselves from those 11 p.m. impulse buys no matter how emotionally drained or tired we are. I really want to highlight this one surprising fact because it blew my mind. The 24-hour waiting period rule alone eliminates roughly 70% of impulse purchases. 70%. You see, most of the burning, urgent desire you feel for a physical object in the moment is just an artificial spike in dopamine. If you simply refuse to act on it immediately, that overwhelming feeling evaporates within a single day. By introducing just one day of friction, you prove to your own brain that the urgency was nothing but a temporary illusion. Now, at the exact same time that you are making spending difficult, you want to make saving totally frictionless. Make it invisible. Set up automatic transfers to your investment or savings accounts to occur on exactly the day you get paid, literally before you even see the money in your main account. Keep only a small, strictly necessary balance in your easily accessible checking account. The real mental trick here is to treat saving and investing exactly like a fixed expense. Treat it no differently than your rent, your mortgage, or your electric bill. By making the act of saving automatic, the system just does the right thing for you, completely bypassing your emotional decision-making when you are tired or stressed out. All right, this brings us to our final conceptual bucket, Section 5. We are going to completely redefine what it actually means to be wealthy. There is a massive trap out there for high earners, and we see it all the time. Their lifestyle often expands endlessly to consume their rising income because they never set a finish line. Their income increases, so they upgrade their car. Then they upgrade their house. And then suddenly they need another massive raise just to feel successful and keep the whole thing afloat. It's exhausting. But the minimalists who successfully build long-term wealth all do one specific thing differently. They define enough before their income spikes. You have to decide right now what kind of home, what kind of car, what level of vacation is genuinely sufficient for your happiness. When we establish a clear finish line for our lifestyle expectations, future raises and bonuses actually build true wealth and freedom instead of just funding a bigger, more expensive cage. And this brilliantly illustrates what true wealth actually is. Look, conventional society measures wealth by visible accumulation, the cars, the watches, the labels. But true wealth is measured by optionality. It is the power of choice. Notice the different paths radiating outward on this slide. True wealth means you can choose to walk away from a toxic boss that is destroying your mental health without panicking. It means you can drop everything and take 6 months off to care for a sick family member. You can relocate across the country for love, or risk starting your own business. The person earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 is completely handcuffed to their next paycheck. But the person earning $80,000 who has learned to live beautifully and comfortably on $45,000, they have extraordinary power to dictate the terms of their own life. Having liquid resources rather than physical possessions buys you choices. So to summarize that thought, wealth is measured by what you can choose, not by the visible markers of success you accumulate. And here is the hidden secret about the bidirectional relationship between minimalism and money. Yes, owning less creates more money. That's just basic math. But having more money also makes owning less feel incredibly natural. When your bank account is robust, when your emergency fund is full, and your investments are growing, that desperate, nagging urge to accumulate stuff simply fades away. A lot of compulsive spending is, honestly, just an attempt to fill an emotional void created by deep financial insecurity. But when you build real, structural financial strength, you simply don't need the stuff to prove your worth to anyone anymore. Your bank account already tells you the story of security that you want to hear. We'll close with this final, vital question. And I really want you to ask yourself this as you look around your life today. Do you own your possessions, or do they own you? Minimalism isn't about suffering. It's not about forcing yourself to live in a stark, empty white box. It is about trading the heavy, hidden burdens of excess stuff for the absolute ultimate prize, which is optionality and freedom. Both the stressed-out high earner and the calm, wealthy, modest earner we talked about at the very start of this explainer, they both made their choices. So which math are you going to choose? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really challenge you to start testing some of these rules in your own home this week. See you next time.